Head over to the brand new FriendoShop.com and get your latest Friendo merchandise. While you're there, use code FriendoFriday to get 20% off. And don't forget to pick up Don't Interrupt the Game t-shirt right now. FriendoShop.com. Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
Yeah, Larson.
Hey, Larson.
Hi.
You want to answer some questions?
Yeah, I guess.
All right, first up from Uncle Howdy69. He says, hey, man, what do you guys think about CM Punk being taken off the cover to Fight Forever?
I mean, if it seems pretty clear that he's not with the company anymore, so you want to use someone who's not in the company anymore to advertise a game that's featuring your company's wrestling.
Have you seen the cover?
The new one, yeah. It looks better than the other one.
May I ask why? Besides CM Punk not being on it.
Well, it's fitting in more so with their overall design aesthetic. It's got the brackets on the side. It's kind of got the blue background. I still don't like the font they were using for the title of the game, but they don't have the weird kind of glowy stroke around the name of the game anymore.
Yeah.
I think from a design standpoint, the cover looks better this way than it did before, regardless if CM Punk's on it or not. But yeah, no, I mean, if Punk's done with the company, then he shouldn't be on the cover of the game.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let me take a look at this box art here. It's too much. It looks too much like an advertisement for Dynamite. It doesn't look enough.
Isn't that kind of what the game is?
No, it's a video game that is. I don't think it's an advertisement for Dynamite. No,
it could be an advertisement though for AEW. People are more into wrestling video games, maybe not that familiar with AEW, play the game and like, wow, this is really fun, and some of these people seem kind of cool. I'll watch AEW. That's
a valid point. That is a valid point. But I don't know. It doesn't pop. Those 2K games, they pop.
I'm not saying the cover is great. I'm saying it's an improvement.
The other, I'll say this about the other one. You are right in that it's an improvement because the other one was dog shit.
Yeah, it was really bad.
I'm looking at that other one. I don't know what all this green smoke and flames are.
I know.
I will say this though, just on an eye test, on an sort of an eye test, it pops more than the other one. It's uglier, but it does pop more off a proverbial shelf. There's too many people on the new one. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people. 10 people on the new one and only 6 on the other. And the other ones are too weirdly spaced out on the other, but all the glowy shit makes it pop more. They're both dog shit ugly.
Yeah, neither are great.
Neither of them really look like video games. They really just needed to rip off 2K because they have it down. All the bright colors. Now, like this year, they had like neon with Rey Mysterio and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not, I don't know if I'd call it better. Because it just looks like Dynamite. Dynamite's coming to your town. That's what it looks like.
Dynamite's coming to your Xbox.
But yeah, as far as Punk being off it, yeah, of course he's going to be off it.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
even
totally
if you had printed up all the fucking box art, you would have redone it.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be available on something called Game Pass. Do we know what that is?
You're asking. This isn't 2012 anymore. I don't know anything about video games, Steve.
I think it's just Xbox's. I think it's just Xbox's thing, right? It's like their streaming service.
Harv here asks, who would you pick to be on the cover of the game? Punk's out. You can get one AEW superstar. Who's going to be on the cover?
I mean, probably Mox. You'd probably go Mox.
You get a nice striking picture of him like bleeding or something. You make it really, dramatic black and white picture of Mox, red blood.
You could see the beads of sweat and blood.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. Or, I mean, you go like from a business standpoint, you go with your biggest name. It's either Mox or Jericho.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. You think Punk's still going to be in the game?
It's entirely possible.
That's a bit different than... That's a bit different, like removing somebody from the game.
Yeah.
Could they... I wonder, like, how easy would it be just to change his name?
Yeah.
Locker room enforcer.
Yeah, I know.
or locker room fighter.
The Muffin Man.
Yeah. Ricky Rabies. Just call him Ricky Rabies.
There we go.
Get in contact with fucking Amel. Be like, hey, can we just use the name Ricky Rabies? Sure, guys. Pony up for some money. And we can do that.
Man.
All right, let's move on to the next question, maybe.
F-Pop here says, not a question, but Sammy getting kicked out has to be more heartbreaking than Shawn Michaels kicking Jannetty and the Festival of Friendship. If it's played right, if it's done well, it's entirely possible.
So I wasn't watching when Jannetty got kicked out, but that seemed like to be the best move. That seemed to be a pretty smart move. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like, Sammy getting kicked out is going to have reverberations, going to have consequences. The Usos are going to lose their titles to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and it's going to be a magical moment. But, Jannetty getting kicked out of the Rockers created one of the top superstars we've ever had in the world of wrestling.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is correct. Burning Waffles asked, do you think any of the titles in WWE will change hands before Mania?
Any of the titles. I think it's possible that maybe... I don't think Gunther's going to lose his title.
Honestly, don't think any of them are going to change hands except...
The women's tag titles might.
That's what I was going to say. The women's tag titles might, but Bianca's going to hold till Mania at this point.
Yeah.
Ronda's going to have it till Mania.
Yeah.
Gunther's going to have it till Mania. Seth will probably have it till Mania.
I think it's possible if Seth gets elevated into a bigger feud, maybe he'll lose his, but I don't see that.
The only way he might lose it is if he's getting another shot at Roman.
If we're power ranking people who are most likely to hold on to their titles, it'd be Roman, Ronda, Bianca, Gunther, Seth, and then the women tag team titles.
You didn't mention the Usos.
The Usos are after Roman.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see here. Julio says, with the women's division on SmackDown seemingly pretty thin, would you consider unifying the belts? No. No, not at all. No. Mm-mm.
You still have the possibility of Charlotte, Sasha, and Naomi returning at some point.
Yeah. I think I'm actually really curious to see the titles be deunified from Roman now that Triple H is in charge, because I feel like he would have a situation where both brands would have a legitimate world champion, and it would be it would be much more interesting than all Vince's hemming and hawing and never really sticking to something.
Mayor Planet Houston says, next year, would you want War Games to be its own separate pay-per-view? Do you think War Games should be a part of Survivor Series going forward, like Paul says he might want to be the case? I want War Games to be a thing. That was always the knock on Hell in a Cell or a lot of these other gimmick pay-per-views is it's on the calendar, so you kind of have to try to build a feud that justifies a Hell in a Cell match rather than just having a really good feud, and if it justifies a Hell in a Cell match, so be it. You don't worry about the theme pay-per-views. You just use that match stipulation or that match gimmick when it's called for. Same with War Games. If the idea is Triple H wants to get away from more gimmick-themed pay-per-views, but then puts War Games on the calendar for Survivor Series every year.
Yeah,
it's kind of you're trading one thing in for another, but the result might actually end up being the same, which is there's War Games fatigue.
Yeah.
So I would say, use it if the story calls for it, but don't necessarily. And if you want to make it an annual thing, fine, but don't always say Survivor Series is always War Games.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't. Because I always if you hold off on drafts and you do them every 3 years, like 1 year you do War Games, the year before the draft you do brand warfare, because at that point everybody's been there for 3 years and you can really build up brand warfare. And then maybe one of the years you do a Survivor Series, a traditional Survivor Series thing. I think there's enough different ideas that you can play around with a lot of them so that you don't go to the same well over and over and over again. Maybe War Games can be special. However, if Paul was here, he might say, I just really love War Games.
Oh, it's obvious he loves War Games. Yeah.
And so maybe that's why he'll be like, hey, you know what? War Games is special. I want War Games every single year like he did in NXT. And in NXT, it was it was always cool enough that you sort of forgive that element of it. You forgive the fact that, oh, yeah, they're just doing this because they want to make it an annual thing. I'm cool with it as long as if it's cool. It's just like with Hell in a Cell. I don't know. Hell in a Cell to me was never that special of a match in the first place.
Yeah, and then we had, 20 years of Hell in a Cell? More
And
or
there'd
less.
be like one on Raw. There'd be like, yeah.
I mean, like as a theme pay-per-view, it's like at least 15 years of it. It's been going on for quite a while. Maybe not 15 years, but we had like 4 years of War Games and 3 times that of Hell in a Cell.
When did it
If we had a dozen years of War Games
2009
matches,
so?
it might feel stale as well.
Yeah.
Don't let it get to that point. Just don't make it an annual thing. Sorry, don't make it a theme show. You can do an annual thing, but make it feel organic. White Brownie says, with War Games coming up this Saturday for both matches, who should start them and who eats the pin? Bianca and Bailey should start
That's good.
the women's match.
That's good.
And then Sammy and Kevin Owens should start the men's match.
That's good. Yeah, I like that. I'll say this. I'll say Sammy and Pete Dunne start. And then Kevin Owens being released and Sammy's reaction to him then seeing him come down after he's already been in a little bit. That's how that would be my preference. Who eats the pin? Ridge Holland.
Okay.
Unless they want to make the pin something special.
Jey Uso gets pinned.
Ooh, wow. And then in the women's side of things,
Alexa gets pinned.
oh, that's good. That makes sense. That's good. Stinky asks, who do you think will be the next 4 AEW World Champions? So I'll go with what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Wardlow, and then Starks, and then you can circle back around to a former WWE guy, Adam Cole, baby.
That's 3.
Oh, and then Danhausen. Jun Akiyama.
Wardlow makes a lot of sense. For
Malachi Black after Cole. I'll do that.
All right.
Because they can revisit an NXT thing.
Yeah, Wardlow makes a lot of sense, especially with the situation where it's, hey, MJF is going to leave with title. Can't have that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Wardlow then beats MJF for it in like a year and change. After Wardlow, revisit the feud with Powerhouse Hobbs. Have Powerhouse Hobbs beat Wardlow
That's
for the
cool.
AEW title.
I like that.
And then have Ricky Starks beat Powerhouse Hobbs for it.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
And then Adam Cole.
Okay. Now let's talk about who we think it's going to be.
I do think Wardlow's going to be the one probably that beats MJF, assuming that creatively they get him thoroughly back on track.
I think he'll. I think I'm bearish on them getting Wardlow on track. So I think that he's going to end up going with a former WWE guy. I think it's going to be Bryan Danielson, who has also apparently recently said that this AEW contract is the last full-time contract, but who knows what that means.
He also said he doesn't care about winning the title.
Yeah, but he's also a big deal. And if Tony Khan wants a big deal with the title, so maybe Danielson.
Could be Jericho. Jericho would be the one to take it off MJF.
That could be Jericho. Yeah, that could be. It'd be awesome if they had Joe eventually become champion.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people on the roster I'd love to see be champion. Keith Lee, he'd be great.
Oh, Keith Lee's a great idea. Yeah, Keith Lee's good. Throw Swerve
Joe's
in there
great.
at some point.
Swerve's great, yeah.
Let's see here. Juan Villa.
Miro's great. Have Miro beat MJF for it.
Miro's arch. Juan Villa or Villa says, "What are your biggest what ifs in the world of wrestling?" He gives a couple, mentioning Eddie and Owen if they never passed. What if the Montreal screw job never happened? And what if AEW never existed? The Montreal screw job is a big one.
That's a massive pivot point right there in the history of wrestling.
I'd say that. I'd also say this is sort of a weird one if the AOL merger never happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because when that happened, that dude rolled up in there and was like, I don't want wrestling anymore.
Yeah, that was the end of WCW right there.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple beats when it came to like Bischoff potentially buying WCW with his group that if those hadn't happened, WWE wouldn't have bought the company and Bischoff would have been able to get it.
What if Hogan decided to stay in AWA or something like that? Never went to WWF.
That's a big one. Yeah, it's a real big one. Yeah, that's good. Oh yeah, I mean, dude, what if that dude never tweeted about All In?
Yeah.
What if that one guy was never like, hey, you think you can sell out a 10,000 seat venue? That guy, that one tweeter changed the history
entire
of
wrestling landscape. Yeah,
it did, absolutely. Let's see here. Jason Lewis, which manager will be better for his world champion client, Paul Heyman or William Regal? You can't go wrong with Paul Heyman.
He set such a high bar.
I know. Yeah.
As the champion or the manager of champions, Regal's great, but that's going to be tough to reach that bar.
Mm-hmm. The Nature Fiend says, wasn't it Meltzer? Did somebody ask him a question? Somebody asked Meltzer if he believes Cody and the Bucks, the Elite, could sell out 10,000. Meltzer said, I don't think so. And Cody said, I take that back. I forget what Meltzer said, but Cody said, I take that back.
I think the question was like, with Cody and the Young Bucks, could Ring of Honor, wasn't it Ring of Honor, sell out a 10,000 seat place?
I don't know. I thought it was that. Let's see here. Mikey says, who wins when she returns, Thunder Rosa or Jamie Hayter? Should be Jamie Hayter.
Yeah.
Should be.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what response Thunder Rosa is going to get, but Jamie Hayter's hot now, and I'd be kind of surprised if the crowd turned on her in favor of Thunder Rosa.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be surprised, and that's who you go with. You go with whoever's hot.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Marvell says, should AEW change the name of their pay-per-views that aren't All Out or Double or Nothing? Full Gear and Revolution are a little stale in his opinion. No, I think it's like WWE's old Big Four. Mm-hmm. I'm fine with that. I don't think that they're stale.
No, I don't think they're stale either.
Yeah.
Hey, for the most part, I'm fine with them. They're fine.
Yeah.
They're fine.
Let's see here. One more good question here. Tristan says, we'll go back to Danielson. He says, with Danielson saying he's only going to be wrestling full-time until his AEW contract is up, how do you book him until then? I think give him the All-Atlantic title, then let him defend it all around the world and bring in international wrestlers to AEW. I actually really like that idea. I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, that could be good. That could be good.
Yeah, I don't know. You give him, if he might say he doesn't want the world title anymore, but.
Well, I think his thing was, he didn't want the world title because he finds joy in working with younger talent. Now, if you give him a title like the All-Atlantic title, which he can defend against people to help get younger talent over, and then motivates him to travel around and defend the title in different places.
You got to give him a feud with MJF. I mean, not winning it, but you got to give him that. Yeah. That feud would be killer, absolutely killer, with the history between Danielson and Regal especially.
Yeah.
We'll answer this one, or we'll finish on this one. Maggie says, what were your matches of the weekend? She says, the women took the weekend for me, but I'm biased. One thing to also consider, if you take out, if you remove the pre-show, the women actually constituted 1/3 of the show. Tag teams constituted 1/3 of the show, women constituted 1/3 of the show, and the men constituted 1/3 of the show, roughly speaking. I think it was like four singles divisions. Right? It was 4, 3, and 3. Yeah. Which should be a regular thing, and and then you establish on weekly television more women's matches and more women's segments
and more storylines. Yeah,
and you might bring back some people that you might have turned off with your booking of the women's division.
Yeah, it's entirely possible.
Yeah,
entirely possible.
No, I thought Tony Storm versus Jamie Hayter was great. Absolutely killer.
It was fantastic. Yeah.
Match of the entire show or of the weekend.
Steve's
or whatever.
Favorite match of the weekend was Frankie Kazarian versus Josh Alexander. For Steve, like, quantity is equivalent to quality when it comes to wrestling. So the longer the match, the better.
Honestly, more but better. That's why Matt Taven's like my favorite wrestler, because who else has gone 60 minutes of prominence there, main eventing Madison Square Garden? Or maybe I got those two things wrong. It was two
separate matches.
Two separate things, right?
Yeah. The ladder match was long at Madison Square Garden, but it wasn't 60 minutes. No.
In my head canon, it's the same thing. He did 60 minutes at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Let's see. My favorite match of the weekend. It's probably, I'd say it's a tie. in terms of just like the best wrestling, it'd be that women's match and it'd be the Ring of Honor 4-way. I really like the Ring of Honor 4-way.
Yeah, that was some really effective storytelling there.
Yeah.
It's probably either Jamie versus Tony or the Elite versus Death Triangle.
That was a stellar match.
It was worth it just for the moment at the end when Ray Phoenix realized, oh, this hammer's really useful.
Pac's smile is what got you.
Yeah. No, it was Ray Phoenix's smile. And literally the realization, oh, this thing's great.
Yeah.
I thought you sold that moment really well.
Maggie's got it right, though. On top of the Ring of Honor match, it included Sammy Guevara's cape.
That's true.
Which is great for me. So anyways, that's going to do it for us. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Check out this video right here. Till next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.